AM 1220 KHTS, Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby, along with Jeff Gerard. We have a special guest, Congressman Steve Knight. If you've had a chance to pay attention to politics, you'll know he is our freshman congressman, elected about a year ago. Is that about right?
That's about right. Yeah,
carry the one
got a little bit more than a year in now.
It's so more than a rookie, right?
Well, I'm still a rookie. I'm still a scrub out there.
Well, look, a lot of you have really stressed some concerns. You had some questions about the budget process, what took place, some of the issues that we had when it came to the passing of the budget, some of the concerns that we had with some of the other bills in Congress. So, hey, I want to give you a chance to give us a call, 298-5487. That's 298-5487. If you have a question for Congressman Knight, we're going to get into just about anything you want to talk about, but we have laid out some budget questions. I want to find out about the omnibus bill. What is that? What does that mean? And does that leave Tuesday and from the corner of Main and Market? It's not the same bus? It's a different bus?
No, this goes all the way downtown.
All the way. It's an express bus. All right, so Congress passed a budget deal. Now what? Congressman Knight, I know that there's been some issues and some concerns about the debt and the deficit. First of all, folks, those are two separate things. The debt is what you owe, like you might have a credit card balance of $10,000, $100,000. The deficit is what you are behind each and every month. You make $5,000, you spend $6,000, right? So that's the deficit. So we have a deficit going into this new budget, is that right?
That is correct, yes. We do have a deficit going into the next year, going into the next cycle. The bad things that happened this year was we didn't get to do an appropriations process, which means you have about 12 or 14 bills that go through the appropriations. You talk about agriculture, you talk about defense, you talk about all the different situations that have to do with a budget, and then you get to see them one at a time. We really haven't been able to do that for many years.
Why? What happened? Isn't that a normal process?
That should be a normal process. This last year it got kind of fouled up by a couple amendments that neither side wanted to see, and so the whole appropriations bill process shut down on the interior bill. And so what happened was we went to a omnibus. Now this should be the last year, or as Speaker Ryan says, this should be the last year we ever do it, but I'm expecting this next year we're going to go right back into the budget process, do appropriations bills, start off very early, I'm meaning January, and working on an appropriations type budget. That means you're going to see the different issues, how much we're going to spend on agriculture, how much we're going to spend on the interior and the defense and everything. And so it'll be a much better process. Then it allows Congress to vote on these issues one at a time. So if the interior bill comes up and I say, golly, this is a really bad bill, I can just vote no on the interior bill. But the problem...
Now, can people add amendments to those bills?
Yes, absolutely.
Take away, add, subtract?
Absolutely. You can amend those bills and go forward with that process. But at that point, you can have a situation where you have a bill right in front of you and you can say this is good or bad. What happens with the omnibus, and omnibus is just a word that just means everything. It means we're putting everything into this.
So this particular budget was an all or nothing.
This is an all or nothing. So you're going to have like 95 really pretty good things in there. You're going to have 5 bad things in there, and you're going to have to make a decision whether those 95 are good enough for you to continue on, or if those 5 are bad enough that you will not. Now, a couple things. Me being on the majority side of the aisle, we negotiated an awful lot of these issues. In fact, several of these issues were my ideas that I put into the bill. We wanted these to be into the appropriations bill. They got put into the omnibus. But so part of this is my idea.
Well, give me one or two that were some of your concerns, because as a freshman, you don't have necessarily as much influence, but you might have a great idea. What was some of those?
Yeah, so we were going to build 2 Tritons. A Triton is a UAS, an unmanned aerial system. It's one of the big ones that they use over to fight for in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we use it for many different situations, but mostly for surveillance and reconnaissance and things like that. We were only going to build 2 of them. The defense came to us and said, we need 4 of them. We absolutely need 4 of them for the mission. I put in an amendment. We are building 4 of them. So that is a kind of a way that I can make a difference on the budget on something that we absolutely need.
Okay, so that's on the spending side. Those are going to be made, is it mostly here in the
Yeah, they're made here in the 25th district.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's a lot of jobs. It's definitely multiple
It is jobs, but it's also the mission that the military came to us and said, we need these for the mission.
So it's above and beyond, if you will, just
Yes.
a jobs bill. It's more of a mission-centered bill.
Sure.
And so in addition to that now, give anything that you fought against that you said, hey, I have some concerns.
Well, there's an awful lot in Homeland Security, and I've enumerated a bunch of them here, but there's an awful lot in Homeland Security and border protection. We are strengthening the border. We are making it more difficult. We are strengthening the fence.
What does that mean, strengthening the border?
Well, here, I'll give you a couple. And so $13 billion for customs and border protection. That is $405 million less than requested. So that's going to help us with our budget, but it's not going to hurt us with our border.
So in other words, we're going to be still adding dollars to the border, maybe not as much as they wanted.
Well, actually, we're going to take away dollars from there. We're going to add it to border fence.
Okay.
And we're going to help out in that situation. So we are taking some money from a situation that we don't think we needed as much and putting it into something that a lot of people think we need. I'm one of those people. I think that the border should be a lot stronger. It shouldn't be as porous as it is.
There are places on the border, and I know you've seen this, but I've been down there where it's literally 2 or 3 pieces of barbed wire,
Yep.
and that's on a good day. And I mean, there are other places of the border that are completely just fences knocked down, trampled by people and others.
So of that $405 million, we are going to put $447 million into border security, fencing, infrastructure, and technology activities. So that's a portion where people are saying, well, why aren't you doing anything about immigration? Why aren't you doing anything about the influx of people coming over, good and bad? There are people that want to hurt us that come through the border. That has got to be the first thing when you're talking about immigration, is it's got to be a much stronger border. So that is one of the places that we fought for, that we got, and that is in the omnibus. There are some bad things in the omnibus. I agree. I absolutely agree there are some bad things in the omnibus. I didn't like that the visa program had jumped so much.
What does that mean? What do you mean jumped?
So we have the H-2B visas at about 66,000. It jumped to almost 255,000.
Holy moly.
Now, before everybody jumps on the phone and says, oh, well, thanks, you just allowed another 180,000 people. The H-2B visas are very select, and they're very, I'm not going to say, well, they're a very select group of people. You're not going to go from 66,000 to 255,000. There's just not that many people out there that qualify for these types of visas.
And that's mostly to clarify, that's the hospitality industry, theme parks, cruise ships, restaurants, ski instructors, so entertainment-ish related kind of
Yeah, but a
field.
lot of them are qualified people too, educated people, highly educated people. So we're going to monitor this very closely this year, obviously with what's happening with the Syrian nationals and groups like that, where we put a couple extra provisions on those people. We put extra provisions on the 38 visa countries that we have.
And that passed? That was part of the bill?
Yes.
All right, nice.
Yeah. And so now, if you are coming from Syria, you have to go through 3 more connections. Now, I didn't want them to come. I didn't want the Syrian nationals to come at all. That is not in the purview of Congress. That is in the purview of the executive branch. So they can take the refugees that we do, and we normally do about 70,000 a year, bump them up to 80,000 a year, and just say we're going to take Syrian nationals.
Wow.
So what we did was we wrote a bill and said, well, look, if they're going to come from Syria, they have to do 3 more checks. They have to go through Homeland, CIA, and FBI. And the checks will push this out to about 2 years for any Syrian national who wants to make it into the United States. But they'll have to go through those 3 checks. This next year, we're going to put more security on the Syrian nationals. So if you are coming from Syria or Iraq, probably by the end of next year, you will have a hard time getting into this country at all if any of them come in.
It seems like it's a very difficult process to even verify. If you're going to some of these villages that have been completely wiped out, and there isn't an infrastructure, there isn't. Some of you know, I was a policeman for LAPD, and I did background investigations for a period of time. And we used to go out and we would do approximately 100 checks for anybody who wanted to become a Los Angeles police officer. That meant their upstairs neighbor downstairs. When they were kids, their playmates, their teachers. We would talk to their former jobs, bosses, coworkers, subordinates. I mean, on and on and on. That infrastructure system doesn't exist with these people. There's
nothing.
There's nothing there. So how do you even know?
There's no criminal history. There's no.
It's not a database.
You don't go into a database and say, oh boy, this guy was, a liquor store robber last week. No, there is no, and there might not be any neighbors. So that is the problem. That's why I took such a line to say we don't. The better thing would be to help them over there, to create these safe zones, to keep them in their own country. Nobody gets a country unless you fight for it. I mean, that is the big deal. But if the executive branch is going to do this and they're going to bring them over, then why wouldn't we put more restrictions on them? And that is the only thing that we really could do.
Well, and what type of restrictions could we put on them if we don't really have an ability to verify their background? Because especially if we're publishing that number of 70,000 as a quota, I mean, one of my contentions with the United States is that we're really good at telegraphing our punches, and the whole world knows what we're doing even before the people in the country know what we're doing in a lot of cases. So if we have a number of 70,000, I bet you people are jumping on that wagon to try to get in and go in maybe even under the guise of being a refugee, and we have no way of telling if they're a good guy or bad guy.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, this is a political move. Let's be honest about that.
Sure.
This is a political move by President Obama. If you're going to take 10 or 15,000 refugees in a country that's fleeing about 2 million people,
sure,
what does that do? What percentage is that? This was a political move by President Obama to say, oh yeah, we're absolutely helping. We're not helping.
Yeah, it's not making a difference.
It's not making a difference.
A safe zone where they can build their own country, their infrastructure, where they can fight for. One of the things a lot of friends of mine noted as the various news cameras were watching these men and women flee up through Europe and through Turkey and through some of these nations, they were all fighting age men. I mean, you would have women, you'd have children, of course, but you had maybe 3 to 1. I don't know. It depends on what shot you were looking at on the video feed. But these people should be put into a camp, military camp, trained, put back into their own land and fight for it, or if not, then they just cease to exist. The Assyrians ceased to exist because they didn't fight for their country and for many other reasons, but because that is now called Iraq/Turkey. The Kurds didn't fight. Now they're very brave fighters. We'll see if they end up with the country at the end.
And we do have safe areas. We can produce safe areas in this country. The Kurds want to help us. The Kurds have been helping us.
Amazing
We have
people.
been helping the Kurds.
Yes.
So we have a connection there. But if you take the very people that are Syrians out of Syria, then who is fighting for that country? It's not going to be Americans over there.
Right.
So the Kurds in the north are going to be by themselves. They're going to be fighting ISIS and many other groups. And this country is just going to be a vacuum.
So I want to shift gears. Do you have any questions?
Not at the moment.
I want to shift gears on this because this is for the conservative base and, frankly, for some middle-of-the-road folks. When we come back, we'll touch on this. But look, some of you are saying Planned Parenthood is part of an enormous system. Planned Parenthood is part of the healthcare system now of the United States. And the care that a woman receives, healthy lifestyle choices, birth control, and everything is now provided free of charge through the healthcare system, through the insurance system. So what is the purpose to fund it separately if not for specific abortion services? And whether or not that is part of the role or not, we'll have to see when we come back. We'll get into that. And as well as the admission of the Planned Parenthood president that they will no longer be conducting, gosh, it sounds horrible, especially at the lunch hour, folks, but some of the harvesting of the fetal tissues. And how in the heck can you support that, Mr. Steve Knight? or did you not? We'll come back and talk about that. Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. Look, the budget was passed, whether you like it or not. Good stuff, bad stuff, and I have a feeling I know where Congressman Knight's going to go with us. Join us as we continue on Total Financial Solutions, Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby.